face here. I'm going to click that. Okay. Okay. We are live. Let me get the webcam going here. So guys, it's Adam Westfall back with another episode of Club 60. Today I have a special guest, Stan Flockhart. Stan, you want to introduce yourself?
Sure, yeah. My name's Stan Flockhart. Who am I? I currently work as the market trainer for Aflac, and met Adam just over a year ago.
Yeah, we started about the same time.
Yeah.
The company.
Right.
Yep.
And I remember, not to turn this about you, Adam, but what impressed me about you was going through flight school and all that stuff was your willingness to do what others won't. And I think I was really excited for you to move into the leadership role because of an example for your new peeps. But yeah, so that's me. Been with Aflac for just over a year, and actually about 6 months ago, my boss Paul put me through the live 2-day outward mindset training, and then did another extra 2 days to learn how to facilitate and train on this content. So I'm a fan of the whole premise of seeing beyond ourselves and all that stuff.
Cool. Yeah, so the book that we're going to obviously do a discussion about, you can see on the screen here, for those of you who are watching on YouTube, is The Outward Mindset by the Arbinger Institute. And obviously, I'm super excited to be able to have someone else on the podcast who's more of an expert, maybe not a complete expert, but has had some training in it and is very familiar with the content and has studied it a little bit deeper than I have. As you guys know, I just like to get through the book one time and kind of give a little bit of feedback and have a facilitated discussion on the topic. So we'll just kind of jump right into it. The first chapter kind of talks about what shapes our behavior. Right, so there's two models. There's the behavior model, and then there's the mindset model.
Sure.
And so the behavior model is just like, okay, you saw me do this, now you do it, right?
Yeah.
Just repeat the behavior. Anything else you want to elaborate?
Yeah, which I think is 90% of human beings, 99% of people try to attempt this, right? And we have a specific objective that we're trying to accomplish or fulfill, and we really, and a lot of self-help books are focused in on our behavior, but I think this is such a simple but novel idea of, well, hold on, let's take a step back and figure out why I behave this way, right? And it's really looking at our mindset, and one of my biggest takeaways from reading this is it's like the old phrase, like 1 degree over time, right? Like if you continue to choose or do one specific or act in one specific way, even if it's just 1 degree off over a long time, is going to take you somewhere you don't want to do or you don't want to be. I think the inverse is true too, right? If you just 1 degree over time, as far as trying to be a little bit more like we put other people's interests in front of ours, or have that outward mindset just a little bit every day, then you'll get to somewhere you'll want to be.
Sure.
And but it starts with you, with me, right? Yeah. You as in not just you, but and to go inward, or to go outward.
To go outward. Yep. Right. So it's what we're getting at is that we want to shift to more of the mindset model, because it's your mindset, your thoughts that are going to shape your actions, right? And according to the book, shifting your mindset before your behavior actually changes, you yield better results. So the first example that the book talks about is a guy named Chip and his SWAT team, and he'd been running that SWAT team for years and received a complaint once a month or something, and they laughed about it and thought it was hilarious and didn't really think about really what the What's the word I'm looking for?
Like how that would impact
Yeah,
others,
the impact,
right?
the impact of it.
Yeah.
Right. And then, so do you recall what exactly happens to get them to change it?
Yeah, well, really it started with the conversation with his son. Chip had this conversation with his son. His son was struggling with something, I don't remember exactly, but and he felt that his dad, Chip, wouldn't be as empathetic as he'd like to, right? And that was that was a big revelatory moment for Chip to show that, man, if I'm not being empathetic to my son, I'm this robot, this
Yeah.
perceived robot, then what am I doing in life? But and actually, when you go through the training, they talk about Chip a lot. Like, he is a huge focal point for the Arbinger training, which he should be, right? Because he was a person that it started with him to shift from going from inward to outward, right? He did an awesome job doing that, and the effect of that was astronomical.
Right.
But one thing that they don't talk about during the life trainings, but I found out throughout the book, is his backstory as well, right? So how his father was an alcoholic, I believe, and his mother, I don't know if there was something up with his mom, I don't remember exactly, but what I think that story is huge, because we could always make excuses to not be outward, right? And Chip especially.
Yep.
And but as we know, he ultimately did turn outward.
Was it him? So when they infiltrated like a drug house and the babies were crying, they find Chip and he's with a baby, like giving it a bottle.
Yeah,
Getting bottles ready for the
It was
babies.
definitely his squad who did that.
Yeah.
But it was, and like he would do that, right? You would never think a big squad guy or police officer would do that.
Right. And the thing was, right, is it didn't just get to that point, like, hey guys, we're gonna be a little bit nicer. Like, it had to start with the mindset of going about this whole approach of being a SWAT team and how they operate. It changed. The mindset had to change first before that behavior could take place. Right?
Absolutely.
So because they were caring about others, and yes, there were children in the house, babies that were crying, and they had no idea what was going on, and
which is the whole
Yeah.
whole premise of the book. I mean, right there. Yeah, that's exactly.
Okay. We'll move on to the inward versus the outward mindset. I'm going to minimize myself off of here and try and get this a little bit bigger. We can do that. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about being inward first, which
Okay.
is what most of us do and most organizations do.
Every day I go inward.
Yep. Inward.
Yeah.
What does it say down here? So symptoms: underperformance, lack of commitment, engagement, blame, lack of initiative and innovation, poor leadership, and conflict. Right. So we have up at the top, we got the problem. We have the behaviors that protect and advance oneself, and that's the inward mindset, right? So
Yeah, it's really looking at, and I'm going to read this just so I don't butcher it, but the person who's inward is primarily concerned with others' impact on them rather than their impact on others.
right. Correct. Why might that be a problem in?
Oh man, I think I think that it is a problem because as it goes into it, you start seeing individuals as objects, as obstacles or challenges, right? And vehicles, really, right? And instead of seeing others as people, right? Instead of seeing individuals as people, and trying to be empathetic to their needs and concerns and challenges. But I mean, for me, it's a daily deliberate decision to be outward. It really is, and
Yeah.
it could be a moment by moment thing. Some days are easier
Yeah.
than others. I mean, even last night, after 2 days traveling for a business meeting, I was driving home, and and this isn't against you, Adam, because I love you, but I was with my boss Paul, and I said, oh, man, give me a reason not to cancel on this meeting tomorrow morning with Adam, because I was exhausted, and I was turning inward, and thankfully, he said, he gave me a couple reasons as to why I shouldn't, right?
Yeah.
And that helped me to
Yeah.
kind of have a realization, like, okay, yeah, I'm just turning inward. So I think sometimes we need to rely on others as well, right? To turn outward, and it's good to surround ourselves with people who share that type of willingness to be, outward.
Right. Yeah. None of us are like where we want to be 100% of the time, right? Like,
Yeah.
I'm the worst when I'm tired. My thought process can shift. If I'm not out of bed yet, man.
But no, I'm happy to be here, Adam.
Yeah.
I'm pumped up.
Perfect.
I've got Red Bull in me. I'm ready to go.
Yes. But moving from that side, I mean, I think naturally, it's easy to see why we're inward. I think naturally we're selfish creatures. I mean, I think we're sometimes taught to be most of the time too. But moving from that to the outward mindset perspective, that's a big reason why I actually started this podcast. I mean, why would I start this without?
Yeah, it's really cool that you do that.
But I'm doing it to force myself to read all these books and obtain all this knowledge, but also to give it back. And if someone is inspired or picks up one quote, if it's just one person that gets inspired to go take action on something from anything that I put out here, then I mean that's more than what.
I mean, you've inspired me. I mean, to pick up things and I've talked to other people about it too. So I mean, there's a ripple effect going on for sure.
Definitely. You follow Gary Vee at all?
No, I don't.
Oh, okay. He's one of my favorites. I talk about him sometimes on the show. I put a little clip of him. But he's an entrepreneur person. He's like always trying to inspire people. He calls it. I think he calls it. I don't want to misquote, but I think he calls it a 51-49. Because inherently we got to be a little selfish, but you give. You got to keep giving.
I like that. I really like that.
Right.
Yeah. And I think and this is, one of those questions from this book should you always be outward? And I don't know. I know the answer that they should always say yes, but I think I don't know. It's maybe I'm just innately inward and want to justify, which is a huge part of the reasons why we go inward. I'd like to justify my selfish actions, but I think there is something to what's his name? Gary Vee?
Yeah.
I think there is something to Gary Vee where I don't know. I think depending on the circumstance, it could be okay to turn inward or be selfish, but I don't know. I don't know if we're going to be able to answer that. I don't know.
Sure. Well, what the premise and what a lot of these guys do is they put out valuable content, free information for you. If you want the good stuff, the good stuff, then you would want to do business with them and buy their programs. But they put out free stuff to gain a following, to have people's attention on them, so that they can then use that attention for whatever it is, good or bad. I don't whatever their intentions are. They have a deeper purpose, but they also, I think, truly do appreciate giving out valuable information and content that they don't mind sharing, spreading. As kind of Aflac, you don't want to withhold your information to your agents. You want to be able to give all that information to them so that you may grow as a team, right?
Sure.
The big thing in this outward mindset, going back to should you always be outward, is having a collective goal to work towards, so it's for the greater good, so that it's all, it's not about one person or the other in particular. It's about what's best for everybody, right? So that's kind of what I think we're getting at here.
Yeah, I think that's huge, and having a leader to identify that vision, or at least help people look through a lens to a specific objective, right? And kind of shape that. But the servant leadership, that would be probably my second biggest takeaway from this book is that, right? Like how to just having that servant leadership type of mentality, and to your point, right? Like being able to provide and just provide the necessary tools for other people to succeed, impart that. that wisdom or whatever it is, or that knowledge.
And then we'll just move on to that into the next slide here on the mindset towards others, and we're talking about how we're going to treat others. This book's about leadership, and it was presented at a leaders meeting, so it's something to pass from the top down, right? There's treating people like people, and then there's treating people like objects.
Yeah.
And I think we all know what people would rather be treated as people.
And you can tell when people, like, I can tell when someone's not treating me as when I can distinguish when people are treating me as an individual or not, right? Like, I can sense that when they're being disingenuous. I don't know if you would agree with that or not.
Oh yeah.
And
well, I mean, you work in, if you've ever worked for a large company, I mean, Aflac is a large company as well.
Sure.
And within the company, there's going to be times where you're just another number. But within, large companies, oftentimes it is a numbers game, and there's obviously no one can. I mean, do you care what's going on in New Mexico with a certain sales team? No. I mean, that's part of it. So people need to feel like that, probably from the ones that are, like I said, from the top down. So whoever their leadership is, they need to feel it from their closest leaders would probably be the. Yeah. But we're all numbers to an extent on someone's radar. So, is it going to inspire us to take action? Not as much as if someone, treats us.
Yeah, and I would piggyback that, right? Like, I still, going back to Chip, right? It was his decision to not let the outward influences, right? Like, don't let the externalities dictate whether I'm going to be inward or not, right? And so it's up to us,
correct?
To choose to go outward or go inward.
Let me see. Was it this slide? What slide is this? There's something I wanted to talk about in this one. That's right. Yeah. So there was in the mindset towards others slide here. I messed it up. There's that part where the son sees his dad kill the horse, like on the farm, because he gets mad and takes the horseshoe and hits the horse over the head with it, kills it, and then like however long or later the kid was milking the cows and got hit in the face by one of their tails and took the bucket and beat the cow over the head with the bucket. And Dad had realized that this happened because he saw me. Yeah. Do that. So
that stuff scares me. I have two children, and they don't know. Perception's reality, really, right? And I think that one thing I love about this book is that obviously it can impact and weave into all aspects of our lives, and it should. But what we were talking about earlier is with family, for those who are closest to us, it's hard. I think that's the hardest for me to continue to be outward. I'm more susceptible to turn inward when I'm with my family than otherwise. Yep. But to think that I may have passed down an inward mindset to my children and or bad behavior, it just scares me.
Yeah. Well, it happens, and whether you know or not, everything you do is impressionable. I know I did everything my dad used to do. So, but luckily, the dad saw it, and said, "Oh, okay," and said, "If you stop, I'll stop." Obviously, a lot of different story. But and the dad, it changed the dad's life by being able to see this, and he then completely changed.
Yeah, absolutely.
That probably is what turned him outward. Is that moment? A lot of times our behaviors and things like that are habitual, and that's a book I'm gonna do my next podcast on. Have you ever read Habits?
No,
I think it's I can't remember the guy's name off the top of my head.
Is it just called Habits?
It's called Habits.
Is it the 7 Habits of Highly Successful People?
No, it's not the 7. It's not the 7 Habits of Highly Successful People. It's not that one, but it's It's by Charles Duhigg. It's called Power of Habit: Why We Do What We Do in Life.
Yeah, I've never heard of it.
It just basically talks about, we're just humans. We're just habits. It helps us with shortcuts, things like that. Just you're not thinking about how you're gonna get dressed in the morning. You're not thinking about how you're gonna drive the car. It's just a habit. But those small habits, and then we have other things. We're just a collection of habits, basically.
Yeah.
Right?
It sounds like something I'd like.
Something that can switch the habit, is a crisis or like a big moment, and something like the dad seeing that kind of changed his habit, his thinking habits, and created that, outward spiral is what it seems like was happening. But moving on, let's go to that's a little bit farther out, isn't it? No, looks like we're on So we're on the needs, objectives, and challenges outward mindset. So this isn't the complete outward mindset model, but for the individual, it kind of is. I mean, it's focusing on all those entities and people around you and what their needs, objectives, and challenges are.
Okay.
Right? And, if you look at any business owners, I talked about this on my podcast, the very first one, the cash flow quadrant. We're talking about business owners, is they hire people that are smarter than them to do, certain roles within the company, right? And they just kind of, what do you need from me kind of thing, or what can I do for you? Mm-hmm. And kind of just facilitate all of their activities around helping out those departments. Yeah. Right? But let the experts, run the show, but just whatever I can add into it.
Yeah, I mean, how powerful, truly, how powerful can that be? I think it can be extremely powerful, and and they're leading from a front, and that's how we should be. I mean, yeah, I love that.
Mm-hmm. Is this slide 6? No. Okay. But this is okay. Inward mindset, outward mindset. So there's a couple other figures that I didn't throw in here, but there was like inward mindset where it's all inward, and then there's also the outwardly nice mindset, and that's one that you want to notice the difference of, right? The outwardly nice mindset is when you think you're doing things for people, when you're trying to be outward, but you're still doing activities that are for you, basically, right? So the example that gave was the dad plays basketball every day with his son and daughter.
Yep.
And he spends a lot of time with them doing it. And then the daughter says, "You don't spend any time with me." And he says, "Of course we do. We play basketball." And I hate basketball. Yeah. And so, big light bulb went off.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, the common theme here, too, is the kids are always the ones who are making these people realize that.
That's true.
It's funny, but
it's a good pickup.
There's something to be said about kids and their innocence and what
So when's the baby coming?
When's baby coming? I don't.
Just kidding.
Who knows?
But no, it's true. It's one of those things where you're 1 foot in, 1 foot out, and you don't realize it. But it's just that recalibration of of really trying to step in the shoes of the people that you're living with, or you're working with, or who you love. And I mean, I do that all the time.
Yeah.
Right? I think I'm being outward, but so long as I can manipulate it to what I want, right?
Oh, dude, I do that all the time.
Yeah. And,
So don't get that confused, right? So the true outward mindset is focusing on the other person's needs, objectives, and challenges, which is a challenge within itself to be able to shift your mindset towards that. But once you do, the results, obviously, and if you've ever tried it out, they're gonna work to your advantage.
And one of my favorite quotes that I want to talking to that is, so starting that shift from going inward to outward. Says basically you're breaking free from the constraints of self-concern, right? And so to your point, like when a team focuses on that collective result, that's when they start going outward, which can be so powerful.
Right, and the few examples they use in the book are like the Navy SEALs, right?
Yeah.
When they're going through their rigorous training, and the ones who give up, they stop and they go ring a bell, which means I'm done, I quit. the ones who do that are the ones whose mindset has shifted inward because it's about them and like I can't do this anymore. But the ones who succeed are the ones who are focused on the team objective, the bigger goal, doing something for the team. Those are the ones that end up making it to the Navy SEALs, and those are the people you'd want being the Navy SEALs because that's what it takes to be a Navy SEAL. Because it is like one of the most difficult things in the world to do. You have to think outwardly to achieve great heights like that, right? So you could translate that to a company, translate that to anything, right? Yep. The next example is the San Antonio Spurs.
Love Popovich.
Yeah, he's beloved by a lot of people, and no one has anything bad to say about the Spurs. Yeah, they're not like the most entertaining team. They don't have the most highlight reels. But if you're a true basketball fan and like a student of the game, like I used to be, I don't pay attention as much anymore, but the fundamentals that they exercise in life. If the ball or it gives us a greater advantage with the ball being in this spot now, and the ball goes to that spot, right? When asked, what they look for in players, he said, look for players who've gotten over themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's apparent when you see them play. I mean, they're so outside the box in the norm, like they don't get coverage too much on Sports Center because they're not ripping off highlight reels like big time dunks. Yeah. But they're winning, 80% of the games and then getting the playoffs every year and winning championships because of the outward mindset. That's not saying it wins you a championship every year, but that collective group of players is not as athletic or talented without shifting that mindset. So it's
and I think you have a huge point is the ego, and it's one thing that I've struggled with, like trying to understand why I tend to have an ego or why others tend to have an ego, and I think what it boils down to is sometimes I hold on to these arbitrary things in my life, right? Like arbitrary, like, this is the only thing I have in my life, right? Or like it's a lack of self-confidence, or I don't know, it's frustrating. But,
no. Well, ego's a hard thing to get rid of too. Like, and if you actually sit and analyze and are truthful with yourself, you'll come to those realizations that it's kind of stupid what I'm holding on to.
But to your point, right? Like a cumulative effort, you can achieve so much more as a collective effort with other people than you would by yourself. Right? Like, and which I appreciate that theme throughout this book.
Yeah, it's difficult. I mean, I've been, basketball is a great one for this because I've been on teams where, when I was in community college, we won the championship, and we were not the favorite. We were definitely underdogs, but we weren't really underdogs. Like we were, which if you listen to other podcasts, David and Goliath, I talk about underdogs.
Yeah,
I talk about that.
By the way.
Yeah, we put aside, who was the top scorer, who was this, who was that. Like that really was never even a thing we talked about. Yeah. Stats was not really the collective stats of the team is what we talked about. Getting the ball to the the person who's open and going to have the highest percentage chance of making the easy shot, as opposed to simple stuff like that. And then I've also been a part of teams that far more talented, far more athletic. Everyone on the team can dunk. Yeah. All that kind of stuff, and we had losing records because there was too many egos in the collective. They're getting that mindset to shift. I don't even know I was trying to do that at the time as like, because I've always tried to be a leader on my teams. Trying to get that mindset to shift was just not something that ever even made sense to them, or something I could ever, eventually get people to think in that way. And it was frustrating.
Yeah, and to piggyback on what you're saying, I think that the reason why these outward mindset type of corporations or teams or groups are so successful is because they start understanding other people, right, a little bit better, and they know their strengths and their weaknesses, right, and they play to that, and so it's just that I don't know, that's the combination of effort, right? Mm-hmm. So,
well, and it's important. It starts from the top down. I mean, it'll talk about this, and if the leadership, the leaders, what are the people at the bottom going to do? They're going to follow the lead of the leaders. So what the people at the top do and pass down is very important, all the way down to the person that's at the bottom.
Yep.
Not treating them like they're at the bottom, treating them just like, everybody else. Like the guy who took over Ford.
Alan Mulally.
Yeah. He would go and eat lunch in the regular, break room with everyone else. He wouldn't go sit in the, fancy executives thing. He would eat just like everyone, grab the plastic tray, do all that kind of stuff. And the company was losing like $17 billion a year before he came in there, and then he came in and kind of shook things up and said, "Okay, we gotta change things." And he obviously
wasn't that like groundbreaking what he did either, right? I mean, it
No.
was simply what's going on?
let go of ego.
Let go of ego.
He knew he was number one, but that didn't really.
Yeah.
He didn't let that play into what he was doing.
And he celebrated when someone's organization or department was struggling, right? And
Right.
And he's like, it's not you who is red, right? You're not red. It's this issue, right?
Yeah. And that's we'll talk about Mulally a little bit more, but becoming outward as far as organizational goes. I'll pull up the diagram too. They call it SAM.
Yeah.
So you got to see the needs, objectives, and challenges of others. You got to adjust the efforts to be more helpful, and then the big part is you have to measure and hold yourself accountable for the impact of your work on others, right? So if you're going for that standpoint, which totally makes sense. I mean, I think of my job as a sales leader, helping new agents, get their feet wet and get going in this business.
Sure.
My approach, well, the proof's in the numbers a lot of the time. How many accounts do we open up? How much?
Yeah.
How's this guy doing? Is he able to feed his family? Is things like that?
Yeah.
You can easily track that kind of success.
Absolutely. But knowing you're going to show what it takes to do that, but for them, right? Not for you, not for your benefit.
Right.
Yeah. And I think it's this acronym SAM is so easy. It's like, okay, see others.
Yeah.
I need to determine whether I'm looking at someone as a vehicle or as an actual person.
Yeah.
And then am I trying to understand their challenges, objectives, all that, and then, what can I do to help? And, have that sort of ability.
Well, and what do you think people are going to do for you if you've spent your time helping them and helping others without expecting anything in return? You should never expect anything in return.
Sure.
I can tell when someone's helping me to expect something in return.
Yeah.
It's obvious. At least I can read that.
Yeah.
But when you just give and don't expect anything in return, what do you think's going to happen? Eventually, you're going to receive that back. Whether it be from that person or whether it just be karma. In my opinion, I mean, depending on whatever spiritual thing you follow, I mean, I still believe that there's some sort of karma out there that
Sure.
is going to come back around for stuff like that. So, how people
Stand.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
Exactly. And my dad, he got into teaching because he eventually wants to, be a consultant and things like that. And he's he goes and he teaches and he gives out his knowledge for free to, people aspiring to do great, and he wants to see them, run companies, do things like that. But who do you think they're going to help out when they come back and they look back at, their mentor, things like that. So, always giving is kind of it seems like it's the way to go.
Yeah, and you reminded me of a story that I heard maybe about 8 months ago where I forget, there was a technical college where a bunch of people had started a nursing program, and about 3/4 of the way into the program, this college had to stop. They didn't have funding. They went bankrupt or something like that. And so here are these hundreds of potential soon-to-be graduates who put in all this time, money, and effort, and were left stranded, essentially. And I think it was Portland Community College or it was some college out of Portland that caught on to this and then reached out to them and were able to get for anyone who wanted to continue their education, basically let them transfer their credits and everything and graduate. Which I thought was to your point, right? Like, it was a good example of being outward, being empathetic to someone's
Right.
Challenges and for the greater good, similar to your dad.
Sure. And of course, Portland's the school is gonna receive the tuition for the people in the classes. So
And the ripple effect from that, right? Like,
these people have jobs and careers in that field and can pursue what they set out to pursue without any hiccups, right? So it's going to do a lot more good, and it's only going to build the reputation of the school for doing that for somebody, right? So let's shift gears back to Mullally and Ford. He had 10 rules for his BPR business plan review team when he was meeting with them, and they're pretty simple. A lot of concepts in this book are super simple and I mean, it's nothing I haven't heard before. It's in a different way, but it still gets you thinking. You still do actively have to be outward and actively work on that. It doesn't just happen naturally. But if you can make a habit of it, which I'll talk about in the next podcast, making habits, you can
coming out next week.
Right. It's going to be more natural, but you have to actively start with the mindset change first. Right. But people first. Everyone is included. A compelling vision. Clear performance goals. One plan. Facts and data. Find a way attitude. So that I like that one. Find a way attitude. Respect, listen, help, and appreciate each other. Trust the process, and have fun. Enjoy the journey, and enjoy each other. So really, really simple stuff, but
It's refreshing.
the compelling vision, the one plan, the everyone is included. That's the team part, right? That's that whole, and then the facts and data. That's being truthful with yourself, right? And then trusting the process and finding a way. That's like you don't always know if you're going to be right, but just keep looking for answers and trusting the process. And don't like how the people at the Ford company were lying basically on their results, showing that they were in the green, and their attitude was, well, I'm doing good. The inward attitude was, I'm doing good, but everyone else in the company is doing terrible, not me.
Absolutely.
And that's all the leaders doing that, right? And so how are you supposed to make any changes if you're gonna
And they're hemorrhaging whatever $17 billion, like you said. Yeah, it's crazy.
right?
But yet, we're doing fine, And if something's wrong, it's not me; it's someone else.
Yeah.
It's tremendous, that type of mindset, right?
Well, you get into a large company like Ford, and there's so many people. You probably don't have as much interconnectedness, just like with any large corporation. So it's easy to just show up for your $100,000 a year job, think you're doing fine, and then not thinking about what could I do to do more, things like that. And there's another story about that, about the guy who was at the law firm, where he was like 2 years into his new job and was like pissed that he hadn't gotten a promotion yet and started looking for new jobs.
That's right.
And he got sat down and they were like, well, we need more out of you. And he was like, what? And that shook him up, and he thought about it for a week and realized I guess I haven't been really giving my best effort. I've just been expecting this from the get-go, but I never backed it up with my actual
Yeah, it removes that sense of entitlement, the outward mindset, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's huge. Especially, my generation, I'm only 24, we get accused a lot of being entitled. Yeah. Even though I think every generation is entitled. However,
you would say that as a millennial.
Oh, I would say that. Millennials have a lot to say about.
I'm a millennial at just barely though.
Yeah. Well, there's people that are entitled from every generation. I mean, I know I've run into them. But that being said, having that entitlement it's only going to hurt you in the long run.
Sure.
Especially if you've never had to deal with any difficulty, or never actually looked at the facts and the data and realized how I'm severely underperforming. Similar to if someone were, ask yourself this: what value do you bring? If you've put your time in at Ford for 10 years and you're just skating by, but you're making your salary, you've lived up to your income, you got a family, okay. Well, now that the company's been going under, and let's say this guy doesn't save the company, you get let go. What value are you going to bring to a company who is looking for somebody valuable when you have to market yourself and show that you've done some things? You came from a losing team. What would you want to bring you in if you're coming from a losing team? You know what I mean? So you should always be wanting to provide as much value as possible to whoever you're around, whether it be family, friends, or your organization or anything. You should. What value do I bring? I mean, that's at the end of the day, that's probably the most important thing if you're looking to go work for a big company or a small company.
And I think at the start of that, the its value and to tie this into it. I mean, am I starting off with the outward, like am I turning inward or outward with that?
Correct.
Well,
I think about it as my sales career with Aflac. When I first started, it was just like rehearse this script, talk to as many people as possible, and hopefully they buy this stuff, which worked a little bit, but it is exhausting, and you can't sustain that forever. I mean, you could, but it's very, very difficult to. I was able to eventually, through reading and talking with other professionals and just learning in general from a little failures, is that the discussion had become about, hey, here's this product, here's why you should do it, let's do it. It was about what value am I bringing, understanding their needs, their objectives. I mean, it ties directly into what we do every day with business owners. What are your goals? What are your objectives? And usually, if a company's looking to scale up, what I've found is that you need employees, right? So you have to bring in benefits to get the good employees. The owner needs to act in an outward mindset in bringing in these benefits so that people will want to work for them because they have needs, right? They have healthcare issues, they have costs that they want to make sure that their family's covered under. They want to make sure that if they're going to miss 2 months of work, that they have some sort of coverage that's there for them, right? So we're all working together in this outward mindset, and it does create that ripple effect too. That goes a lot deeper than you would think until you sit down and you kind of ask these questions and you have a conversation where you can be honest about that kind of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. And that has completely shifted my business and has made this job 10 times easier.
Good.
Because I'm able to realize that going into it. So it's not like hopefully this guy
No, it's good you had that metamorphosis, right? I mean, how refreshing is it to have that topic conversation instead of the mundane status quo sales conversation of here's why you need me, instead of let's take a step back and go through, essentially, if you went through these 3 questions, what are your objectives and challenges? What's inhibiting you to achieve those?
Yeah.
And what can I do to help?
Yeah.
I mean, honestly.
And that's the other thing too, is like maybe the other thing that I've also, picked up on is, through things like giving good referrals and things like that. I mean, that's huge in the sales industry. Is if I can help you with your needs and objectives, like maybe it's completely something else. Maybe this guy completely opens up to me and tells me he has a problem with his marriage or something. Okay, well, I do know a good marriage counselor
or divorce lawyer.
Yeah, and I can I can send you their way. I can get you guys in touch, right? Whatever I can do to bring
Yeah,
value.
absolutely.
And that's and I don't really even. Yes, obviously I care if I can make the sale happen, but that's not even my intent anymore. It's just what value can I bring?
Love it.
And 95% of the time, I can bring value by bringing in some sort of extra benefits for the company. But
value-added service. Just
kidding. Yeah. But for those of you who aren't,
that's my plug.
Yeah, for those of you who aren't in the Aflac industry, I bring in benefits for companies that are free to offer. It's not of any cost, and it's things that are important. Life insurance, dental, vision, things like short-term disability. If you're going to miss work, how's your paycheck going to come in? Yeah. I mean, simple stuff. And a lot of people still don't have it. It's because they haven't had a good conversation like this with someone they trust and who is actually looking out for their best interest.
Sure.
And not just trying to get something pushed across, right? That's a reputation that a lot of salespeople have, and that's why salespeople have, in general, from others, a bad reputation because of things like that. But the true high-performing salespeople are the ones who are going in, what can I do to meet your needs, objectives, things like that, right?
Yeah. I hate the word holistic, but more of a holistic.
Yeah, it's holistic. You can relate it to just about anything. So let's talk about Sam. Let's talk about see others.
Okay.
Listen. That was probably the biggest thing. Ask questions and listen. I mean,
It's so hard to do.
it sounds easy, but it can be
It's
difficult
so hard.
if you haven't actively made that something a priority. Most of us are talkers, not listeners. We love to talk. All of us love to talk. I have a podcast where I just talk about books. I love to talk. Right? I want you to listen.
No, I mean, it just this totally just reminds me of another great book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. And Dale Carnegie discusses how people will walk away from a conversation that you've had with them, and thinking you're such a great conversationalist if you just listen. Like you don't have to say much if you just listen. And turning it to sales, right? The 80-20 rule, right? Like they should be the customer should be talking 80% of the time, and or we as sales reps should be talking 20% of the time. But as a market trainer, that has been one of the biggest revelatory, impactful moments for me in this role. It's the inverse. That is what holds true, more often than not, that sales reps just want to yak, and it is unsettling. And anyways, yeah, listen's absolutely absolutely critical. And there are different degrees of listening, right? Like right now, you're engaged and you're looking in and you're doing a great job listening, but sometimes it's kind of like what we were talking about before, like you're 1 foot in, 1 foot out. Sometimes you're not. You're hearing what you want to hear, right? Anyways, I'm rambling.
And if people are gonna hear what they want to hear, let's ask them questions that are gonna get to that.
Yeah.
Right. Because if you put yourself on the flip side, I'm sitting here, someone's trying to sit and talk sales with me. I'm listening to a salesperson. It's usually not very interesting, and I have very short attention span.
Yes.
So I'm not necessarily picking up all that you want me to pick up. But you just stop, ask questions, do that kind of stuff, and listen. I mean, simple concept. Obviously, you can dive way deeper into it, but listening is important. People love to talk about themselves and
ask questions with them.
Win friends, influence people. They love to hear themselves talk, and they also, I was just gonna say it.
They want to give you money.
No, become genuinely interested in others.
Yeah.
Easier said than done. Some people are very boring, but you have to.
Sometimes that's when you fake it, right?
Right. But I've definitely adapted that and become genuinely interested in others, because I do believe that I'm not very smart and that everyone has something, newfound knowledge that they can give me. Strengths. Have you done Strengths Finder? You figure out what your strengths are?
No.
I'm a learner. So learner's big for me, so
Yeah.
I love to learn.
Yeah.
So which is funny because I hated going to class.
Yeah.
But I like learning. Like I love reading and learning on my own time. But
to be honest, Adam, I think you and I are similar with
Yeah.
that regard. To be honest.
yeah.
But yeah, it's dang it, I forgot.
No.
I forgot.
Yeah, you get, and now we're just streaming, and so it gets nerve-wracking when you can't remember what you're going to say. But bring it up if you remember. Okay, adjust your efforts. So this is the A part of Sam. Adjust your response to the needs you see around you. One example of this from the book that you could think about was there's this kid at school. I think it was like second grade or something, and he's running around naked and
Yeah.
acting crazy. Obviously,
Super disobedient.
Yep. And the teachers would chase him around, put him in detention or put him in timeout. And that punishment obviously wasn't working because he would just do the same thing the next day and the next day, right? And so, after the teacher who had some outward mindset training, kind of realized, maybe I'm treating them like an object.
Yep.
And maybe this kid it's a cry for help. Maybe he has something going on at home, or there's other things going on. So she completely changed her response to how she deals with him. So when he ran out of the classroom, she just let him go and continued to teach the class, didn't pay attention to it.
Yeah.
And then went and found him 20 minutes later, hiding underneath the blanket when he kind of realized, oh, nobody's chasing me. What do I do now?
She starts playing hide and seek with him.
Yeah, played hide and seek and said, all right, I got to go back to class now. And he ends up coming back to class. Like, she adjusted towards his needs and said, okay, what can I do? You can't, there's another thing, and I'll probably talk about it in a second too, but you can't wait on others to make the change. You have to actively go do it. Because if you have this, knowledge of outward and I need to adjust, you have to go, be the one who ignites that.
Yeah, absolutely, Adam. And I think that another part of this story is the boy got better, but was still kind of a pain for her, even after all this.
Right.
But what was important is that she started to be a little more empathetic, and it wasn't as big of a deal, right, for her, and she had more understanding behind it.
Right.
I mean, I another example of this is me when I try to put my kids to bed, right? It comes 7:30, 8 o'clock. It's like that is precious time for parents from bedtime after for me just to unwind. And if my kid gets up from bed, which they do, it's so frustrating, right? And I don't see them as my little girl or my little boy. I see them as a challenge and an object. I'm like, get into bed, right? And if I'm not careful, I will turn inward so quickly and start manifesting those traits that I hated, that my parents or my father would do to me, right? Of being inward. But after this training, I've heard a similar story to this concept, but I started. My little boy would get up a lot, and when I put him down, now I ask him when I'm leaving the room. I said, "Okay, bud, what else do you need to go to bed?" I ask him that question, and then he's usually like, "Oh, I just need some water." Okay, go grab him some water. Give him the water. Okay, bud, what else do you need to go to bed? I need my Mimi. I need my blanket, right? Yeah. Okay, we'll go grab it. What else do you need to go to bed? That's it. Okay, and more often than not now, he might get up once, but he won't get up twice. Like it's totally, and because I'm trying to, maybe that still is a little 1 foot in, 1 foot in, 1 foot out, but it's definitely allowed me to, adjust my efforts and respond to what he needs, right, and to help him feel like he's an individual.
Yeah. Cool.
Anyways.
That's important. You ask him what his needs are, what his objectives, what he needed, and then you measure it by seeing that he doesn't come wake you up or say he can't go to sleep more than.
And if he does get up, I say, "Bud, you remember when you told me this is all you need?" Like, yeah. Okay. Go to bed.
You gotta tell me
instead of it. I think what's important there is that they feel like they have their autonomy. Like they still have the ability to choose and make the decision. And I think in so many aspects of our lives, whether it's a sales conversation or any interaction we have with people, if people feel like you have removed their ability to choose, it's not going to go anywhere, right? Like your relationship is going to become diminished. And whereas if you provide a forum or a video of them or an environment of where they feel like they have their ability to choose, your relationship's going to flourish, and you're going to, both parties are going to win.
It's just like you're talking about, all the way from each other, giving them autonomy to a large company where the person who feels like they're dirt, you let them have some autonomy, you let them be a part of the planning process, all that kind of stuff, let them have a voice. That's gonna have a ripple effect. That's huge for everybody to feel like they have a say and that they matter. We want to feel like they matter. Humans want to feel like they have a purpose. You want to feel like they matter. You have to love them to feel that way in those positions.
Yeah.
And then let's go to M, measure impact. If we don't measure the impact of our efforts on the objectives of those we are serving, we will remain blind to important ways we need to adjust and will end up not serving others well. That's on page 91 in the book. It's pretty self-explanatory. I mean, it's just like with a science experiment or anything, you got to measure your results and see, okay, well, I've been doing this action over this period of time. Has there been a difference? So you have to track your results. It's just like with tracking goals or anything like that. You always got to track it to actually know how well you're doing, right? And in this profession, in sales, in training people, it's obvious that to track results by looking at the numbers and seeing what they're doing on a daily basis. I know that's why people track. That's why you track numbers. It's not because I want to know necessarily what you're doing. I don't really care, but I need to know so I can assess how we go about leading, from here on out. So,
where's the deficiency, right? And so I can help you with that, or I can find someone else who can help you with that. Correct. Sure.
But that one's pretty self-explanatory. Measuring, however you got to measure it. Some things that you can't maybe put into numbers are tougher, but you have to somehow find some sort of number to track it. Otherwise, you won't be able to track it. Don't wait on others to change. This diagram that I'm pulling up, don't wait on others to change. It's pretty simple. You can't.
It starts with me.
It always starts, to start with you. If you can see yourself as a problem and take blame and responsibility, even when it's not like there's not much you can do or you can only do something to an extent. If your mindset is taking the blame and taking responsibility.
Sorry, but you should never really feel uncomfortable to own your mistakes, right? Because if you're owning your mistakes, more often than not, the other people that see that, they're not, if they're reasonable, they're not going to put your nose into, they're not going to rub your nose into it. They'll start being empathetic and probably they'll try to attempt to help you improve or whatever it may be, right? So I think that ownership of, or just not having any excuses, goes a long way.
Mm-hmm. And we all have excuses why we didn't get something done or why we didn't achieve, but don't dwell on it. It goes back to that story. I think the guy's name's Chris. It's back in chapter 4 or 5 or 6, I can't remember. But his dad was alcoholic, beat his mom, all that stuff, killed himself. Chris goes on for a long time in his life blaming his dad.
Self-loathing.
Yeah, for why he can't, be where he's at. It's all his dad's fault. So a 17-year-old girl says, well, did you ever think how your dad felt?
Yeah.
And completely changed his thought process and put a roadblock in that. And then
she starts laughing at him.
Yeah, and it's the same thing, a lot of people. There's a lot of people who blame, their parents for why they aren't where they're at. For not having enough, or, sometimes in the case for giving them too much.
Yeah, they can't win. Parents can't win.
No. So taking responsibility for yourself is what this guy ended up realizing that he had to do and stop being, he was probably, without knowing it, turning into his dad by acting that way.
It's so hard.
So it's okay, to be upset with somebody for, the way that maybe they raised, maybe it wasn't, ideal, but also let's look outwardly.
Yep.
And what can I do to help?
Yeah, those externalities don't have to dictate who you are.
Right.
Exactly. How you treat other people,
Mm-hmm.
or how you treat yourself, right?
Yep.
And I think that's another theme in this book that I really like, right? That it is focused on others, but it first starts off with what type of compassion and self-confidence you treat yourself with, right? And
absolutely. Simple concepts.
It is simple. It's frustrating how simple it is.
Yeah. You still have to actively think about it. And if you can, fill in the blank of what the situation is and how you can act this way, then you'll probably find your solution most of the time. So the main purpose of this book, it's a leadership book. The program is for leaders and people who run businesses and run teams, organizational success. So starting with yourself and then transforming that outward mindset amongst everybody in the organization is the ultimate goal.
Absolutely.
To be able to spread that. And so how do we make this widespread change happen? Right. Well, start, the road ahead, that's the last chapter, the road ahead. Okay, what are the steps? It's starting with the mindset, okay? You gotta start the mindset. I'm going to choose to be the outward person. And then you don't wait for others to change. So you are actively being the one who initiates the change, the leader. That's what leaders do. They're the ones who start this kind of stuff. And you get others to work towards a common goal. Okay, what's that goal? Right? Let's put it into Aflac perspective since we're Aflac people. Okay, we got fame this quarter.
Sure.
Okay, we have this much in quota. Okay, we haven't famed before. Our mindset is, everyone's selfish. Let's say, so we got to get the team to work towards the common goal, and maybe we, set up, hey, if we hit this metric, I'm taking you guys all out on a trip or something like that. So there's something for them in it too, because the fame is a bonus for myself as a manager. So, it's not always about me. You want to allow people to feel like they're doing something. Don't wait for them to change. You need to take action and, put your nose right in their business to, make sure that they're doing what they need to be doing. So they're going to achieve, so that the team collectively can achieve, right? You need to allow people to be fully responsible for their work, and that's the big thing with Aflac is own it, right? You do need to allow people to feel like they are running, their own show, which is ideally what you would want for them to do, so you don't have to worry about it 24/7. You want to be able to trust that they can do it. You just, the tough thing is people come into the business thinking I'm going to run my own business, which is, yeah, that's great. But let me make sure you're doing it the right way so that you don't quit in 6 months like 90% of people do.
Yeah, you have that system that you can put pressure on.
Right. Exactly. And then allow them, once they've learned, to adjust it to make it their own, but allow them to have complete control of what they're doing and feel like they're in control of what they're doing, right? And this job for the ones who succeed is really awesome in doing that for people, allowing them to do their own thing. Eliminate unnecessary distinctions that create distance between yourself and others. Right? You want to elaborate on that one?
Yeah. I don't. No, I don't.
Eliminate unnecessary distinctions that create distance between yourself and others. What that means to me is like, well, this guy's district coordinator, so he's my manager. Things like that. We're all in this. We're all in this together.
Remove like unnecessary barriers.
Mm-hmm.
Try to, I think, to your point earlier, be genuine.
Yeah.
Right? Like showing a genuine interest, have some authenticity to it.
Right, and that's like Derek, who's the regional, is really good at that. We have UFC parties at his house and things like that. Like it's a family thing. It's not like oh, this is my boss. This is how you treat me. We all talk to each other like we're just humans in the office, right? And that's important. So we eliminate those unnecessary distinctions that create that separation. And that's important, especially in this business. And then to the extent you can, rethink systems and processes to turn them outward. You want to energize people. You don't want to manage objects, right? So, are you not happy with the results? Well, what have you been doing? What's the status quo? What can you do to change that?
Yeah.
How outward can you go with it? What extent can you go? There is a limit. You can't hold someone at gunpoint to sign up for Aflac, right? But you can, change the way you're running the whole system.
Yeah, and there's a quote, I don't know if I heard it from Paul or someone else, but, leadership is ultimately just trying to remove any obstacles or roadblocks away, remove those so that other people can succeed, right? And if you have, tying 5 and 6 together, if you do have this process that can work, you can put pressure and leverage that process instead of later on, if someone does fail, you don't have to feel guilty about it, right, as a leader. Anyways, but yeah, absolutely. And, being able to inspire and encourage them and energize them is,
And it's not always easy, and it's I take it very personally when someone I train doesn't end up succeeding, because I take the mindset of it's my fault. To what extent could I have made it better? I'm not sure. But always, I'm just going to learn from
To
it.
Malali's point, you have to trust the process, right?
right.
If you have if you have a system or a process in place, it's up to them to trust it and do it.
If it doesn't work, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
We'll reevaluate.
Yeah.
And we'll.
And you're a great example. I mean, a lot of, like you said, fail out of this, and that is because they don't do the requisite activity, and but what it takes to be successful in this and start. I mean, it's a get rich slow scheme, right? Quoting Andrew Lucknock, but you know what it takes, and now you can show. This you've exemplified it, and now you know it, and this is what you can try to.
Sure. I mean, getting people to understand delayed gratification, I damn near impossible. But, I think it's possible. But you really want someone to know coming into the business. The ideal thing would be to let them know that this is not a get rich quick overnight kind of deal. But most businesses and things are not get rich quick. Yeah, you can. There are times where you could invest and double that in a night. But how much research and studying and knowledge did you have to come across before you were able to actually make that investment and know that this was going to happen? You have to. There's still time that was put in on the back end for that kind of stuff too, right? So there's always getting rich takes time. Building something takes time. So that's why you measure your results, right? And you continue to adjust and adjust and adjust, and things don't change over time. In basketball, if you beat a team one game, what do you think? A good coach is going to do? They're going to make the adjustments, or even going into halftime, you're going to make adjustments and look at what you're doing and track your results. Okay, well, they're beating us in this statistic and this statistic. We need to adjust our efforts in this way, right?
Yeah.
So you can translate that to.
Yeah, and one last thought that I have on this slide is, I think this book really is focused in on relationships, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't. We don't have to. A relationship doesn't have to start off with the at the outset of we like each other, right? Or we have common interest, right? Or we could be friends offline, right? It doesn't have to be like that, right? It's more of like, hey, ordinarily, I know this is probably a lame example, but I kind of perceive it as, we're all in this playground, right? And more often than not, I'm on the seesaw playing because those are my interests.
Yeah.
This is what I like. Other people are on the swing set, right? Because this is what they're interested in. And what I like about this book is it really allows you to go to a common ground, right? Of a sandbox, where you can meet and then start that foundation of having that relationship. But before you get into the sandbox, you got to check your ego, and you have to know what the common goal is, right?
Yeah.
And to that point, that's when a true outward mindset and a mentality can flourish.
Yeah.
And anyways.
Yeah. And it goes like this book is very relatable to. You could fill in the blank with a little stuff, right? Whether it be your own personal life, whether it be a business, sports.
Yeah. And just there's so much. Yeah.
But it is what is the Harbinger Institute? Is that?
It's just a company based out of, I believe, out of Utah actually, and they started off with the first book, Leadership and Self-Deception, and then it's basically a consulting and training corporation.
Okay. Cool, man. Well, we'll wrap it up here. That was obviously, if you want to know more, I would recommend get the book. It's a quick read. It's a little under 200 pages, but you'll get a lot more details and info in there. And you can, we just rambled in this podcast, but you can always, take it and put it into own examples of your own life. And again, thank you, Stan, for coming on and having the discussion with me. And Yeah. And so my next podcast, not sure when it's going to drop yet, but it will be soon. It will be on habits, why we do what we do, by Charles Duhigg. So be on the lookout for that. Other than that, thank you guys, and we'll see you next time.